Good afternoon, Longhorns. This is Mrs. Ford. I was going to go ahead and give you guys a reteach on multiplying decimals. First thing we want to start out by doing is stacking our numbers. So when you look at letter A, it's 1 and 12 hundredths. And we want to multiply that by 125 thousandths. You'll notice that I'm lining up the numbers, but I am not lining up the decimals. So I'm going to go ahead and start multiplying this out just like I would any two whole numbers. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 5 times 1 is 5. At this point, I look at it and I say, okay, I want to multiply by 2, but what am I going to do? Well, if you remember what Miss Hernandez said, she said you want to hug and kiss your place value. So I'm going to hug or kiss this 5 away, and I'm going to hug a 0 in for that place value. Let's go ahead and continue. Now I can multiply by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. And a 1 times 2 is 2 again. Now I need to multiply by 1. So this is where a lot of people have that trickiness start. You gotta go ahead and kiss the 2 and the 5 goodbye. So if we're kissing the 2 and the 5, that means I'm going to have 2 hugs down here for the place value. So now I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 1. 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 1 is 1. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add these together. 0, 0, and 0 is 0. 6 plus 4 is 10, carry the 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. Plus 2 is 8, plus 2 more is 10. So a 0 and carry the 1. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. And then I have a 1 all by its lonesome over here. At this point, it's time for me to figure out what my decimal point is. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see how many numbers after the decimal point I actually have. I have 2 here, which means I'm dealing with the hundredths place. I have 1, 2, 3 here, which means I'm dealing with the thousandths place. When I combine those, that's going to make 5 numbers after the decimal point. So I'm going to go ahead and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put my decimal in front of that 5th number. I also want to remind you that since we were dealing with the hundredths place on the first number and the thousandths place on the second number, when you multiply 100 times 1,000, you get 100,000, which means that your place value should be in the 100,000ths place. So let's count again to check to make sure our decimal's in the right place. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths. I have it in the right spot, so it's time for me to continue. Let's head over to B. B has 22 and 5/10 times 7. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, 22 and 5/10. Stack it with the 7. Notice how I did not have to line up the decimal points. I just lined up the numbers, and now I'm going to multiply it out just like I normally would. 7 times 5 is 35, carry the 3. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 3 is 17, carry the 1. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. At this time, because I only had one number to multiply by, I know I'm done multiplying. But I need to put in my decimal point. So I'm going to count the amount of numbers I have after the decimal. I have 1 here, that's the tenths place. And then I look at my whole number here of 7 and I say, okay, well, there's no decimal. But anytime you have a whole number and you want to put a decimal in, you put it in at the end. But I still don't have any numbers after that decimal point. So 0 numbers after the decimal point means that my answer is going to have 1 number. Okay, so I need to put my decimal point in. So it was the tenths place. So that means that I'm going to move it 1 place to the left. And that gives me 157 and 5/10. And if you think about it, 1 decimal point is the tenths place, and my answer is also in the tenths place. So let's head on down to question or letter C. We got 1 and 25 hundredths times 3 thousandths. 1 and 25 hundredths times 3 thousandths. Notice how I'm lining up the numbers, but not the decimal points. All right, so I'm going to multiply like normal. 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 1 is 3. Wait a second, I already multiplied everything, so what do I do next? Oh, that's right, I have to put in my decimal point. So I'm going to count how many place values I have after this decimal point. Tenths, hundredths, that's 2. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, that's 3. Makes a total of 5 numbers after the decimal point. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm noticing something. I didn't have enough numbers. This is where the annex 0 comes into play. Whenever you don't have enough numbers, but you need to put in the place value and the decimal point, you need to go ahead and put in 2, in this case, 2 annex zeros, so that I can keep in play the correct place value. So we had the hundredths place, we had the thousandths place, and when you multiply the hundredths place by the thousandths place, we get the hundred thousandths place. And we're going to go ahead and check our work. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths place is the answer. So 375 hundred thousandths. Thanks for working with me today, and I hope that you have a better understanding how to multiply with decimals. Have a great day. Good morning, Luna Longhorns. I'm going to go ahead and give you a reteach on dividing decimals. Let's go ahead and begin by reminding ourselves how we set up a division problem. First thing that I want to look at is question A, and it says 5 tenths divided by 12. When I look at 5 tenths divided by 12, 5 tenths is actually my cowboy and 12 is my horse. The divided by number is always going to be your divisor. So when I set this up, 5 tenths is my dividend because it is the number being divided. And 12 is my divisor because it's the number that you are dividing by. So, cowboy always goes inside, horse stays out. Let's start dividing. Before I divide, I have to look at my divisor. I have to look to see if there are any decimals in there. I don't see any. 12 is a whole number, so I can go ahead and begin dividing. When I look at my decimal point, I'm going to go ahead and put it up at the top. Remember how we talked about that? He kicks off his boots with a decimal and hangs up his hat. Okay, so let's start dividing. 12 into 0. I can't make 12 out of 0, so I'm going to put a 0 at the top. Can't make 12 out of 5 either, so I'm going to put another 0 at the top. At this time, I ran out of numbers to divide by. And a lot of students stop there and they're like, Miss Ford, what do I do? Well, first thing that you're going to do is you're going to buy a donut. Alright, so I add a 0 onto the end, and now I have 50. 12 does go into 50. It goes in, I don't know. Let's check. I think it might go in 4 times. 12 times 4, 8, 48. It does. So I'm going to put a 4 here, write 48, and subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. And I have another remainder, so I have to add another 0 and bring it down. 12 goes into 20 one time. Remainder 8. Add another 0. 12 into 80. Well, when I look at 48, I think, man, I could almost double it, but not quite. So I'm thinking one less than doubling. So 8 would be doubling, one less would be 7. So now I'm going to multiply 12 times 7 to see what that is. 14, 7, 8. Oh, it's 84. I went over. Does it work? Nope. So I need to bring that 6 over here, change it to a 6, multiply 12 times 6, 12, 6, 7, 72. Subtract remainder 8. Huh. So I'm going to keep adding this 0, and I notice that I keep getting 80 here, or a remainder of 8, which means that the 6 right here is repeating. So my answer is 0 and 416, repeating the 6, and that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. Let's head over to B. B is 1 8/10 divided by 6/10. So again, remember, cowboy, horse. 1 8/10 is the number being divided, so it's a dividend, and 6/10 is the number that we are dividing by. That's the divisor. Cowboy, horse. Okay, so the next thing I look for is my divisor. Do I have a decimal? Yes. If I have a decimal, I kick the ball to the wall. And notice how I moved it one place to the right. That's multiplying by 10. Well, whatever I do to the outside, I have to do to the inside. So I'm going to multiply by 10, or kick the ball one time to the right, and bring up my decimal point. Now this is technically, and I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it because I want to make sure that you guys understand, 18 divided by 6. Well, everybody knows that 18 divided by 6 is 3. But in order to keep my myself true and make sure that I know that I'm doing this right, I'm going to go ahead and do the process. 6 goes into 1, 0 times. 6 goes into 18, 3. 6 times 3 is 18 with a remainder of 0. Now I'm done dividing. My answer is 3. Let's head on down to C down here at the bottom. Cowboy and horse. Set up my division. 12 and 24 hundredths divided by 4 hundredths. I have a decimal in the divisor. Kick the ball to the wall. Now that was 2 decimal places times not 10 but 100. Kick the ball to the wall times 100. 4 goes into 1. Nope. 4 goes into 12 3 times. Remainder 0. Bring down the 2. 4 goes into 2. Oh, wait a second, it doesn't. So that means I have to put that annex 0 up there at the top for its place value. 0 times 4 is 0. Subtract. Remainder 2. Bring down the 4. 4 goes into 24 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24. Remainder 0. Now, since I have a remainder of 0 and I've used all the numbers in the dividend, I know that my answer is complete. 306. Thank you very much and have a good day.